Hi guys, my name is Kirsty. Welcome back to Upside Down Books. Today we're going to be looking at my very tame January book haul. My November-December book haul was somewhat out of control and insane, so thankfully in February I have not found myself in the same situation and my TBR has not exploded in a terrifying way. It is much more manageable, and I was even sent 3 books in January, which means that I am less to blame for the number of books on my TBR. So I have a grand total of 8 books to show you today, I believe. I seem to have suddenly come back on the radar for some publishers, or maybe December was just a really busy time because I have noticed I've had a sudden influx of books that have been sent to me for review, which is both exciting and terrifying because I'm never ever on top of reading my ARCs. Although that being said, I've tried really hard to get on top of it at the start of this year, but some of the ones I'm going to show you today have actually started 2 out of the 3 that I got sent in January, and I'm just not loving them, so that always stresses me because I really hate to put down a book that I've been sent. So let's start by having a look at the books that I have been sent for this month and talk about them for a moment. Now, the first one I did actually request. In fact, I think I requested all of these. So the first one is Jane in Love by Rachel Givney, which is a reimagining of Jane Eyre if she were to be in the modern time and if she fell in love, I do believe. So it's a bit of a fantasy read where Jane Austen, did I say Jane Eyre before? I meant Jane Austen if I said Jane Eyre. She finds herself magically in modern day London and, well, modern day England, and is a little bit shocked by it all. Now, I don't really know if this is like adult fiction or not. I think it might be, and I've been having a little bit of a problem lately trying to read adult fiction because I am too much of a child to appreciate it right now. But I'm really hopeful that this is going to be good. I haven't heard many reviews on it so far. I'm not even sure exactly when it's out. So this was sent to me by Penguin. I believe it's out now, coming out soon. I didn't actually get sent details about its release because this is a finished copy, so let's just cross our fingers that this is going to be as good as I am hoping it's going to be, and I'm very curious to hear what you think if you have already read this. The next book that I received was Agency by William Gibson, and I have started this one. I am, if you can just see, I'm about 50 pages into the book and I'm really not loving it. I was really taken in by the cover for this one and all the things that were hinted at in the blurb, talking about changing history with Trump not being in power and all sorts of other things, Brexit not happening, and I thought that sounded really fun and really interesting, and I thought it was going to be a little bit of a satirical book, but it turns out it's actually just a really hard sci-fi. So apparently it is Gibson's style to just throw you into the story without a whole heap of context, and I'm not a fan of this. I probably should have done some more thorough research before I requested this, but alas, I never learned from my mistakes. So in this one we follow a character who has been unemployed for about a year. I don't think the world is doing too great. It is 2017 though, so I'm not really sure how that fits in. I think this might be a sort of alternate time stream, so not our 2017, but another 2017, and there's this AI character that the main character gets involved with, who is basically she wears a pair of sunglasses, or just glasses, and the AI talks to her. But it's just really confusing and I don't really know what's going on and I don't really know what the point is, because then we switched to another perspective in the future and they know about this time stream and they're planning on changing it, and honest to goodness I just don't understand any more than that. So I've just sort of put it down at the 50-page mark and I'm gonna pick it up after I've read some more lighthearted reads, because right now this isn't really my cup of tea at the moment. So this was also sent to me by Penguin, and this one came out on the 4th of February, so it's a relatively new release and you'll already be able to find it on your bookshelves. The next book that I requested and received was The Last Day by Andrew Hunter Murray. Now I'm currently reading this one also, however I have persevered to about page 80 in this one. I've been reading some of it today and I'm disappointed so far. This book is all about if the world stopped turning, so half of the world is stuck in light and half is dark, which means you've got desert and frozen wastelands, etc. And this is a really popular book concept that has been done in YA, fantasy, sci-fi, you name it. There's so many adult fiction, there's so many different variances of it. So I like the concept of it, but I'm finding it very dry to start with. The main character works on a rig or boat offshore. Not entirely sure what she's doing. I think she's some sort of scientist. Lots of people have died. London happens to be, or England happens to be, one of the countries that is in like the sweet spot where it's not direct sunlight, but it's also not in shade, so they can still grow crops and stuff. But on the whole, there's meant to be a person that she meets who has a big secret that's going to change things, and where I'm at now, she's just met that person, but I'm not seeing this taking off in any sort of radical way, so I am going to persevere because I can't DNF 2 books in a row, which is why I have DNF'd neither of these. I really want to see where they end up, especially with this concept. So I'll have to get back to you on this one, but yeah, I was really hoping this would kick off with a little bit more of a bang and be a little bit more dystopian than it is, but it's just sort of like, I feel like I'm just reading about a depressed adult's life, which isn't exactly riveting. So this also came out on the 4th of February. It is done by Penguin, but it's done by the imprint Hutchinson. That's a really cute logo, actually. I've not seen this build before, but I like it. So those were the 3 books that I got sent in January. I've not had a hot start with them. I'm definitely terrified to start Jane in Love in case it goes along the same vein as the other ones, just not grabbing my attention, which is why I think I should probably take a break and read some lighthearted stuff. That being said, I have been trying to boost my reading morale with some Harry Potter, but it's still not quite got me in the right mindset for serious books. So let's have a look at the books that I've bought myself. I'm going to start with audiobooks as always because otherwise I forget. And the book that I bought this month with my Audible subscription was Sleeping Giants. I have no idea who it's by. Now, I bought this one on the recommendation of a friend who has also listened to the audiobook and said that it was fantastic. This has been loosely on my very wide, far away radar for some time because I think when it came out there was a lot of talk about it, a lot of people saying it was really good, worthwhile reading. That was sort of all I ever heard of it. So I'm not sure I've ever actually read the synopsis for Sleeping Giants, so I just did just then, and I don't really know how to summarize it other than a girl one day falls through the earth, lands in a square hole, and when the firemen come to rescue her, they discover she's basically in the palm of a giant metal giant. Just a metal giant. And basically then dedicates her whole life to working out what it means, why it's there, and what its purpose was, or is. So I don't really understand what that story is going to be about or why it's so good, but apparently it is, so let's cross our fingers. So the next book I'm going to show you today was a cover buy and an impulse buy that I tried to resist but I couldn't, and that was A Dress for the Wicked by Autumn Krause. I loved the cover for this book, and the hard book on the book depository was going for really cheap. Also beautiful and blue on the inside when it is naked. Honestly, this is another one of these books where I don't fully understand exactly where we'll be going with the blurb, but basically we've got a sleepy town where not a lot happens and our main character is good at sewing and all of that jazz. So there's a prestigious design competition that happens, and it's been opened up this year to country girls as well, so of course the main character Emmeline wants to join in. I have no idea what they win for this competition, but it kind of sounds like The Selection meets The Bells, and I enjoyed both of those stories, so I'm down for this one. The next book I have to show you is a late Christmas present that came through, and that is Truth Witch by Susan Dennard. This is a book I've been wanting to read for the longest of times because everybody loves this series and everybody loves Susan Dennard, and she has definitely ridden on the tailcoats of Sarah J Maas because they are friends, and Maas promoted her heaps when she was first released. I've not actually seen this cover before. I've only ever seen the one where we have the girl on the front, so this must be the UK Australian edition versus the American edition. But basically, if you don't know what this is about, this is a continent on the edge of war and there is magic. So the main character is a witch, but she's a rare type of witch. She is a truth witch, and so she's on the run and is trying to avoid being captured because that would be very bad. Basically, I think they just want their freedom and they're running from war. So I'm sure that there's going to be an unlikely romance in this, along with lots of magic, fighting, war and angst as you would expect, and I'm very excited to read it. I hope that I enjoyed every bit as much as everybody else in the world seems to have enjoyed it. So hopefully I will be getting around to this one soon. This would probably be a much better pick for me to read right now, but I will persevere with my adult books and see how far I get before I give up. The next book I have to get was a series I wasn't entirely sure that I was going to carry on with, but then the sequel was on for a good price in the book depository, and of course I crumbled, so I bought it, and that is The Crown's Fate by Evelyn Skye. I have a feeling this is actually just a duology. There may be a third book and I've forgotten, but I have a feeling this could be it. So the first book, this is sort of like a Russian fantasy where we've got two people who have magical powers and they're competing for the Tsar's attention and a prestigious position, and they compete against each other, and the first book was like super lackluster because it was really cool what they were doing, but it was not exciting. There was not a lot that happened in that book, so I'm hoping that book 2 will be better. I certainly am curious enough that I would have felt unsatisfied if I never finished this series, and it didn't take me very long to read, but I'm not expecting that this is going to blow me away. The next book I have to show you, I've actually already read because I'm doing a fantastic job of reading my Christmas books already this year, and that is 1,000 Nights by E.K. Johnson. However, I was a little bit let down by this book. Don't get me wrong, the read was fantastic, the story was really cool, it's a retelling of 1001 Nights, it was just not quite how I was expecting it to be done. So I would definitely recommend reading this one, but it has a lack of like the stories being told. So if you were expecting something as whimsical, magical and clever as Renee Ardier's The Rose and the Dagger, this isn't quite that. It's obviously a lot shorter, but there's a lot more of the world being built around the main story and a little bit more thought put into, I guess, the prince's position in this world. So I did definitely enjoy it, but I wasn't 100% blown away by it, which was a little bit sad, but Again, a beautiful cover, so that's okay. So that brings me to the end of my book haul today. So it's a happy amount of books there, which I'm very pleased to now be the proud owner of. That is back to front, but that's fine. I'm excited about all of them, except perhaps for the two that I'm currently reading, which I'm not super loving, but that's okay. Let me know in the comments down below if you have read any of these books, and I would love to know your thoughts. But other than that, I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.